Hi, everybody, and welcome back to EBnet.Stream. I received a very interesting article the other day, and instead of publishing it, I reached out to the author who penned it to rather have this conversation in person, well, as in person as work from home allows us, but to have this conversation around a topic that I think is important and certainly personal to everyone on the call. So the article was entitled, "What's Making South Africans Unhappy at Work?" with the caveat that said tired of the grind. So Michelle Dobson, who is the head of brand at Pnet, she is the author of the article. And welcome to EBnet.Stream, Michelle.
Thanks so much, Natalie. It's good to be here.
Okay, so your article was a different spin, or perhaps the same spin, but again a call to action or a reminder that individuals may be feeling unappreciated at work. So perhaps you can start our conversation by just outlining some of the background of your thinking.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the article basically came from, or was a spin-off of a campaign that we recently launched. So Pnet's been around for over 27 years as an online recruitment platform, and a couple of weeks ago we rebranded to align with our global parent company, the Stepstone Group, based in Germany. So the new brand joins a couple of the other European markets, and part of that brand relaunch was accompanied by a campaign called Helping Hands. And the premise of the campaign is it's targeted at job seekers, and it basically gives them permission to want to look for a new job. So it's based on the insight that the campaign itself is based on the insight that, job hunting doesn't actually start when you start searching for jobs, when you go online and put in that role. It starts when you feel a disconnect between where you currently are and where you want to be. And that disconnect is pretty much what the article was about, is, how do job seekers identify that disconnect? Why are they feeling that disconnect? And, what should employers know about sort of disengagement and this, potential risk of their employees leaving?
You reference in your note, you reference a Gallup study that found that 61% of South African employees are actively looking for a new role. Now, for any employee benefits service provider or advisor on the call, or human capital recruiter, for example, that's quite an interesting, almost a quite stark fact. Why are people looking for new jobs?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of reasons, and they're all very personal. I think a lot of the time we're only feeling really the impact of COVID now in the world of work, which is a strange thing to say. But at the time that COVID happened, and sort of the 2 or 3 years after, there was a strong emphasis on staff well-being and all the rest. And what has happened in the interim, that's now 5 years back. But what has happened in the last 2-3 years is that businesses have been stretched. Some have reduced the number of staff, and so the teams that are left behind are picking up extra workload. They might be stretched, they might be typically overworked, underpaid, and just feeling like they've been carrying the load of two for longer than they care to. So those reasons, and obviously there's the traditional reasons of, I just don't get on with my boss. I'm in a toxic environment. There's not a good culture fit in this business. So lots and lots of reasons, but I think at the root of them, a lot of them relate to stress and being stretched.
Just to give some more insight into that same Gallup survey said that 36% of South Africans are saying that they feel stressed on a daily basis at work. But I want to touch on something that really struck me when I read the article, and that is that just 23% of South Africans say that they're engaged at work. And some of the things in my mind, having come out of the employee benefits industry for my whole career, is there a lens here through which an employee benefits package or an employee value proposition may be positioned to actually grow this engagement or retention of people?
Yes, I mean, I believe there is. If I look back at or talk back to the previous point around, you know, an emphasis on staff well-being that kind of seems to have dissipated over the last couple of years. Going back to that, and and looking at what actually motivates people, what keeps them interested. I think often when we talk employee benefits, often when we talk remuneration, we talk monetary remuneration, and as great as that is for job seekers and for workers, it has to come with balance, and it has to come with managing. If people are too stretched, they start making mistakes. I think we're all familiar with the term quietly quitting. So if 23% are engaged, that means 77% are quietly quitting. They're just slowly but surely losing interest. They're arriving, keeping the job going, but not really with any level of passion or energy. So I think there is a role there from an employee benefit point of view that employers can get involved in, and that is to really authentically care about your people. Often in my experience, often with companies, there's some sort of company wellness program, especially in the bigger corporates. But when it comes to the grind, it's delivery at all costs. So it's almost like it's like the equivalent of greenwashing. It's saying one thing, but actually in action, it's a different thing. So I think that authenticity about caring for your staff and caring about your staff's well-being could absolutely form part of those employee benefits. Yeah, I mean, we've all seen. Sorry, Natalie. I read a meme the other day that said something like, all my company's given me is a slice of pizza once a year. So that's it. That's kind of dipping your toe in to come to staff well-being. It doesn't make sense, and job seekers can see workers can see right through that.
Hi, pals. Greetings from Sammy. EBnet is proud to bring you top quality content from experts across the financial services industry in South Africa and internationally for free. Your support helps us in doing this. All we ask is that you subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button below. Share this video with others you think will benefit from it. And give us a thumbs up if you are enjoying the content. That way you help us help you. Thank you from the team at EBnet. For more great content, please visit www.ebnet.co.za. Ciao, ciao, and bye-bye.
It's such an interesting thing because the recent Sanlam survey or benchmark survey, which is quite a well-referenced document in our world in employee benefits, kind of found the same thing as this study of Gallup's and what you're finding as well, and that is that employee well-being programs are a thing. Right. And are appreciated. And I know myself, I've tapped into these types of programs when I've needed to from a variety of perspectives. So let's pretend I'm an employer and I haven't really done anything in this space. What can I do to show that I care? Is it a combination, or is it only the retirement fund? Is it a combination of other stuff? The Sanlam survey that I've just referenced talked about something like debt counseling or money counseling, financial literacy, etc. What are you seeing from your perspective that job seekers are motivated by?
So, I mean, all the examples that you gave, or the three examples you gave there, were monetary. So retirement, retirement fund, remuneration. It's not just about, it isn't just about the money. And I think having financial stress does roll over into all parts of one's life. So it affects your family environment. It affects your relationships with people, your sleep, your nutrition. So financial stress at the root of it is absolutely going to impact how you show up for work and how you show up for life. But I think if we look at softer, almost like the softer, I'm not going to say softer skills, but like the softer side of people management, it's for managers, it's checking in with their staff regularly. So, a lot of businesses have regular, one-on-one meetings or team meetings, but they're all very task focused. They look at what are the deliverables, what are the priorities. They're not actually used to check in with that particular person on a personal level. When we have a lovely thing here at Pnet called continuous conversations. So, we're encouraged to continually have continuous conversations that are not about work and deliveries. It's about how are you doing in your personal capacity, and it's people can keep that information private. It's just, is there anything that I can do as your manager, or is there anything that we can divide out into the team that can help you with your workload, or if you're going through a tough time at home, we don't need to know the details, but let us know that something's going on, and we can kind of do some of the heavy lifting on your behalf. So those kind of continuous check-ins are absolutely vital, and it's so easy to do, and it's not about money or or setting up new structures or benefits. It's really just about a personal, honest, authentic conversation with your staff member,
and certainly a level of care.
Absolutely.
Care for humans around you, right?
Yeah.
But as you were talking, it sparked something in my mind around. I can imagine those of us who have been around and managed people for a long time are kind of going, here's this thing again about wellness. I'm managing to stakeholder and shareholder really expectations and requirements. So is this care kind of wellness conversation predominantly a generational thing? So it's the youngsters coming in who want it, or are you seeing it across the board in job seekers?
I mean, I do think it's across the board. I think if I'm a Gen Xer, so I do think that we Gen Xers are a different breed if you look at the younger generation that are entering the workforce now, or kind of in their first 10, 15 years of work. But we do see from our research, obviously, we do a lot of work with job seekers, understanding the psychology of job seekers. So we do see with the Gen Z, Gen Y, that there are a lot more, what would we say, woke is probably the term. They're a lot more interested in working with companies and working for companies, and even in terms of consumerism, consuming brands that show an interest in the world and sustainability and environmental, environmental care. And so I would say that there is this younger generation that's kind of almost holding up the mirror and saying, you guys you've got on so far, but are you okay? You need to look at the balance. You need to have a life in between your work. And I think that's forcing us to start looking at how we can, how we bring this care into the world of work on a daily basis. As I say, not just kind of dipping in as and when we need to.
I was going to say, please don't tell my boss that I have a job in between my life.
Yeah, exactly. We'll keep that a secret.
I mean, just a question to wrap it up, because we are running out of time, I see. From a job seeker's point of view, and we've talked care and we've talked the softer issues. When it comes to REM benefits, what in your opinion is the most important thing a job seeker looks at when looking for a job?
So, I mean, again, it is very personal, but I mean, I think salary is always going to be the motivator, because people have a very clear view of what they need to take home, what they want to take home, where they want to pitch themselves. So I think salary is going to be the first thing that people look at. But and I take myself as an example, even though it's a sample of one, I do believe it's an example that can be extrapolated to job seekers in general, is you can give me a ton of money, but if I'm working for a brand, especially as a brand person, if I'm working for a brand that I don't resonate with, or, that doesn't fit into my value set, it doesn't matter how much money you give me. I'm not going to in some instances, I could be embarrassed working for that kind of an industry or a company. So money, I think money is the first conversation that job seekers want to have when and it's ironically, it's the last conversation they have in an interview process. But it is the first thing that's on their mind when they start looking for work, even if it might not be the trigger that's encouraged them to move on. So if it's a toxic environment and, they're working for a horrible boss, or they don't get on with their colleagues, or they're overworked, that might be the trigger that encourages them to start looking for work. But they will then start looking at the same salary or more. It's very seldom somebody will leave a toxic environment and take a drop in salary. It happens, it absolutely happens, if it's a very toxic environment, but salary is always going to be the big motivator and the big driver. But as I say, we're seeing more and more that people are putting their hands up and saying, actually, I deserve more. I have worked hard. I've studied. I have a very strong work ethic. So those kind of things are becoming important. And I think especially in South Africa, because we have such a high unemployment rate, as job seekers, we're often made to feel grateful for what we have, regardless of whether it serves us or we're growing or, any of that. So this campaign actually was about giving people permission to say, I deserve better. There are better opportunities for me out there, regardless of what's happening in the unemployment, in the unemployment sector itself.
I was actually, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to go down that road of, sometimes, and I was going to actually ask you, is it because I'm a woman that I sometimes think, oh, I'm just so grateful for my job? Or is it a not a trend, but a kind of a thing that other people out there feel? And it's actually great to hear you say that, that there's that, and then there's kind of me or you or the job seeker or the individual who's going, shucks, I'm really not happy here now. It's time to move along.
Yeah, and I do think there is a gender element to it as well. I mean, we know that that women can be a little bit softer spoken, and not as vying for themselves as much as a male would. But I think in general, we are made to feel that it might not be the right environment for you, or you're not 100% happy, or you're doing the work of two people, but hey, at least you're getting a paycheck, and that's that. We can deserve, we can put our hands up and say I deserve better.
Michelle, thank you. It's been wonderful talking to you today, and just a reminder that people don't only work for money and benefits, but also for psychological benefits and self-expression. And I think that's an important thing for people to remember when designing these types of benefit packages for individuals. So Michelle, thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Nice to chat to you, Natalie. Cheers.